You're joining us on Facebook Live in the Eastern Daily Press, Norwich Evening News and Mustard TV newsroom here. I'm joined by Lorne Green, Norfolk's Police and Crime Commissioner, who's celebrating a year in the job and now a year since you were elected.
Well, Neil, thank you very much. I don't know if I would say celebrating. I'm just carrying on and doing my job, serving the Norfolk community.
Well, let's call it recognising a year since you were elected.
I recognise that.
Let's go with that. Right, what we're doing is we are taking your questions this afternoon. Frankly, anything goes that you want to ask Lorne Green. Obviously, as we are coming up to the general election, we are keeping this non-party political, so we're just sticking to the real issues, really. So we're very happy to take your questions.
Well, Neil, there are real issues in the election as well.
Well, of course.
But we're just not touching on those today.
Well, we'll avoid some of those, but we'll stick to what you want to hear from Lorne Green. But Lorne, have you ever done any of these before? Done a Facebook Live before?
No, I haven't, Neil. Have you?
No, first on this sort of setup, so we'll play it slightly fast and loose.
Sounds chaotic to me.
Just a touch, but I'm sure it's going to be good fun. Well, I've got a few questions lined up from prior to us going live, which I'll put to you first. One from Daniel, which came in via Facebook when we put out this earlier. You never see police out in the sticks. You can get more. How can you get more officers out into the more rural parts of Norfolk?
Well, Daniel, when I was elected a year ago, that's the event we're noting today, there were 6 officers dedicated to rural crime. 6. We quadrupled that in the last 12 months. We have 23 today, one short of quadrupling. But we've made a big push. I've given top priority to, along with some other top priorities, I might say, to rural crime. We now have constables on horseback, special constables. We now have quads. And keep your eye over the skies of rural Norfolk shortly and see if you see some police drones.
Well, police drones, hang on, I can't ask you a backup question on that. How would they work?
How will they work?
Yeah.
Well, listen, if anyone out there has any idea about trying some hair coursing, you better look up because we're going to have our eyes on you. No more Keystone cops, police officers running across farmers' fields. Within 5-10 minutes, we'll pick them up. We've already had great success, you know, in cutting down on not cutting down hair coursing, but doing a better job of catching these.
I guess they'd be fitted with cameras. Is that the point? You'd be able to spot people doing it.
Well, there's no sense of having a drone if it's not going to have a camera on it.
A very good point indeed. Right. First question in with from Terry Burrell.
Hi, Terry.
Terry says, "Will you help support Neighbourhood Watch with any funding?" Thanks for that, Terry.
Terry, the answer is yes. I think in the past the constabulary, probably by its own admission, let down the Neighbourhood Watch scheme. We're now in the process of revitalizing that and giving it meaning. Too many people, dedicated people in neighborhoods who have committed to Neighbourhood Watch have said the police have let them down by not sharing information with them and so on. We're now in the process of re-energizing that.
So when you put that kind of funding into Neighbourhood Watches, obviously funding is tight. How important is it to actually have those people on the ground for you? You know, the public eyes and ears, I suppose.
Well, Neil, you heard this before. The police are the public, and the public are the police. This goes back to Robert Peel, Bobby, Robert Peel, 1829. And we have 1,472 pairs of police eyes at the moment to prevent and fight crime, but we have 890,000 pairs of eyes in this county. So the relationship between the community and the police is absolutely essential.
All right, we've got more questions coming in thick and fast. Let's go to Nye Longman. Hi, Nye. Why are election turnouts for crime commissioners so low?
Because we did a poor job of promoting the position in the past, and I don't blame people for being cynical or skeptical or just downright hostile to the idea of an apparent other layer of bureaucracy involved in police and apparent politicizing police. Well, all those are misperceptions. In fact, my office today is doing more with less than the old police authority did, a considerable bit more, number one. Number two, we have the police now more visible, more accountable than they ever were before. You know who to turn to if you have some issues now. You call my office, you call me, and you don't need to come to me because I don't know where you live now, but we're coming to you.
We've got loads of questions coming in. Lee Barker, what are you doing regarding motorbike thefts? Which obviously must be a big issue for Lee.
Interestingly, Lee, motor vehicle theft in this county has gone right down. Not necessarily with motorbike, but people think, oh, car theft is a big thing. We only have maybe 3 or 4 car thefts a day across the county. It's pretty hard to steal a car today. I don't know enough about motorbikes to know whether you have the same kind of automatic locking devices as you have on cars. So I can't give you I'm a politician, but I'm not going to give you a BS answer now. I don't know what the statistics are on motorbike theft, but hey, if there's a problem, phone the police. If you think, well, the police aren't going to be able to do anything, yes, they are, because maybe not your particular bike, but after a while, if everybody reports these instances, the police can do profiling, and we begin to get a better idea where this is happening, when, by whom, and the police can move in and do something about it.
Okay, plenty of messages coming in. Hello to Chantel as well.
You're very popular, Neil.
I know we are, aren't we? It's nice to know someone's watching, isn't it? Is it all me?
Yes.
Thanks, you're very kind. Let's have a word from Laura Calnan. What are the main types of crimes being committed in Norfolk?
Laura, I met a school group the other day and I asked them that question. And first 15-year-old was really smart and said speeding. And you know what? That's right. We caught 1,100 speeders in 1 week during a special campaign about 10 days ago.
Yeah, it was at the end of April, wasn't it?
But if you want to talk about really hard crime, domestic abuse, because I can tell you as we're talking today, Laura, probably a call is coming into the control room to report an instance of domestic abuse. And how do I know that? Because today there will be 40 to 50 such calls, and tomorrow another 40 to 50 calls, and the day after there is a plague of this abominable, abysmal violation of people.
Do you feel that the perception of crime is the same as the actual crime figures, though? What people think are the problems aren't always the actual problems the police are seeing?
Well, that's because some things are seen as, quote, invisible crimes. What goes on behind the net curtains, domestic abuse, child exploitation, cybercrime, and so on, out of sight, out of mind, but believe me, they're there. Whereas the perception is it's household burglary and car theft and so on. But the statistics show that it's the other things that most of us don't see.
Okay, more questions coming in. This one's from Donna Welch. Donna says, my husband is a builder and had his van broken into whilst he's been working twice, and the site he's been broken into as well. Items stolen, site vandalised countless times. He gets a crime reference number and is told we probably won't be looking into this any further. Explain, please, this is his livelihood.
Donna, it hurts from several points of view. One is you're a victim of crime. You feel you're a victim of neglect as well in terms of response. And I don't know the value of the loss of your husband's tools, but Donna, the sense of violation too, that really hurts, doesn't it? And I'm mindful of that. As I mentioned to the last question, I don't know who told you that nothing can be done. Something can be done. Maybe not specific to the loss you've suffered, but again, through reporting and records and criminal profiling over time, the police are able to build up a profile of who may be doing this. If they've done it to you and your husband, they're doing it somewhere else as well. And over time, that guy or gal, whoever it is chances are they're going to get caught.
So it's building up the bigger picture. Okay, thank you for that one, Donna. Well, so many questions coming in. Let's try and keep up with some of these. One from Laura Stango.
We just had on Laura.
This is another Laura, different Laura altogether. It says, good afternoon. What does Lorne think of restorative justice with regards to vandalism, etc.?
I'm all for it, Laura. To defile, to deface our communities and so on through vandalism hurts everybody. It hurts the business community. People don't want to shop in proximity to that sort of thing. We don't want to see it. You don't want to take your child for a walk in the park if you're confronted by that. So so-called antisocial behavior is really that. It's anti and it's unsocial and it's wrong behavior. And I had put to me in Thetford during my campaign, there was a problem there of graffiti. So I vowed if elected to do something, and I've sought to do something, and there's now an underpass in Thetford that is now decorated by some really talented art, by some really talented young people. We've managed to turn a negative in Thetford, I think, to a positive. And so, we can't just write off people because they do the wrong things. We have to try to help them see the error of their ways and do something good for the community.
Oh. Questions really are coming in thick and fast. Let's go to James Snelling as well. Why do you feel it necessary to... Oh, I've lost it. Where's it gone? I've lost James. Where is he? There he is. Why do you feel it necessary to waste police resources on cannabis users? I guess cannabis is always a touchy subject when it comes to policing.
Well, it's a question of priorities, isn't it? The reality is that it is classified as a criminal offense, but there's a lot of other things that are criminal offenses as well, and perhaps more urgent and more pressing. And so I think that people should be reminded of what is the law, and I will never advocate anything contrary to the law, but I am mindful that there are priorities, and you can decide for yourself where you place occasional use of cannabis in the scale of priorities.
Okay, well, let's move on to, well, look, so many coming in. Let's go to Kirby. He says, my neighbour's partner attempted, let's just move on from that one just for a second. I'll look back at that in a second. Let's go to...
I'm going to come back to you, Kirby.
Yeah, we'll come back to that one just a second. One from Jimmy here. This one's fairly blunt, but we'll do it anyway. Do you think your job is a waste of taxpayers' money?
Well, I don't know what you think, Jimmy. I might... I'm presuming that someone must have suggested that to you, but I'm sure you don't think that, because the very fact I'm here talking to you today shows that I'm your servant. I'm here to address your concerns and make sure that to the extent that they have meaning to the police, that something is done about them. My job is to demonstrate the relevance to your interests, the interests of your family, your friends, your neighborhood. I'm doing my best to demonstrate that. You'll be the judge of that in the next election.
Okay, let's go to Sue Edwards. Sue's asked, what's your opinion of making new recruits to police have a degree?
There are different ways of getting a degree. My wife has 2 degrees, but she never sat in a university classroom. And I'm not quite sure how this proposal works, but I don't think it means necessary that people have to sit in a classroom. You can become a police officer, and then over time you can, through taking the necessary courses and practical experience, get the degree. So that I am in favor of.
So maybe a mixture of experience to actually come into it, I suppose.
I put a lot of stock in experience, to tell you the truth.
Okay, let's get another one from the list we had beforehand. Do want to get to some of these questions as well. Felicity via Facebook. Felicity asked, good afternoon if you're still watching, Felicity. What does he intend to do to help police officers with their mental health?
We don't think often enough of the impact on police officers and some of the things, and other emergency services as well, on the incidents they have to attend. And I'm really mindful of that and sensitive to that. I have just recruited, I'm in the process of recruiting an additional mental health nurse for our control room. And one of the important tasks of that mental health nurse, and I've insisted on this in the statement of job duties, is to assist the police themselves in facing the stresses that go with the job. It's a really stressful job.
Well, think about it, they're often first on the scene at some pretty horrendous things.
Well, it doesn't even bear imagining some of the things they have to confront. Let's spare a thought for them. And if I can put in a plug as well, I was talking to a police officer the other day, and somebody came up and said, I want to thank you for what you've done. And the police officer said, I can't believe it's the first time in 20 years anyone said thank you to me. We owe a big debt of thanks to the emergency services.
Okay, we'll stick with mental health, but we'll flip it around slightly. This was from All Will Be Well 54 on Twitter.
All will be hell.
All will be well.
Oh, well.
Let's be positive. All will be well. I'm not quite sure how you refer to them. Let's refer to them as All Will Be Well 54. You have a mental health team and high mental health demand on all officers. How can mental health services reduce your workload? So I guess this is meaning the amount of mental health related things the police have to deal with. How can you reduce your workload by other services helping you?
Well, joined up services is absolutely essential, and they're not joined up well enough at the moment. All well be well. And we are working on that. And I'm in a privileged position representing the county as a whole to try to bring together the social services, NHL, mental health trust, and so on, with the constabulary to address this. We need to address instances of criminality and so on at the lowest level of intervention possible. And if there are people that are unwell, then they must be treated as unwell, not as criminals.
Okay, let's look at some others. Comment from Sue Edwards. This is a great idea to engage with the public. Thank you very much, Sue. That's always nice to hear. Was that kind of why you wanted to do this? Actually get involved and, frankly, take anything they can throw at us?
I'll be honest with you, Neil. I'm not very good at sitting at my desk and reading briefing notes. I like getting out and talking to people and meeting people and hear their concerns, then convey those back to the police, and then hold the police to account. They're going to do something with those things. So I think this is great, and I think all credit to Archant as well for making this possible.
Okay, well, let's move on to another subject that can be fairly touchy, actually. This is from Leslie Robinson. Leslie asks, why are the police so scared of entering traveller sites and dealing with thefts, animal cruelty reports, etc.? When they know travellers are involved, they will not ever get involved. I know this can be a tricky subject because you get into the realms of people saying it's to do with race or discrimination. But, well, this is what Leslie's asking. Let's tackle it.
Well, Leslie, I've spent a day at traveller sites in Thetford Forest not so long ago with a dedicated police officer. His job is to deal with issues surrounding the gypsy and travelling community. I think there's a lot of misunderstandings. Some of it is generated by public misperceptions, and some generated maybe by members of the travelling community themselves. I've been in caravans with the travelling community and so on. I have a lot of time for a lot of them, but I recognize that there are some issues as well. They are being addressed. These people have a voice to be heard, and if, however, they're acting outside the law, then that should be treated. The police are not frightened of addressing these issues, but we have to be mindful if a half dozen caravans pitch up and maybe there's 15 or 20 children involved and so on, and issues arise, it's not a simple matter of simply going in with, I know there aren't truncheons anymore, but going in swinging the proverbial truncheon and so on to address the problems. We had to be sensitive to, we're dealing not with individual travelers, we're dealing with traveling families. And so that is why sometimes it may seem the police are not acting. Also, there are council issues involved, private land issues involved, and so on, and legal issues. So it's not a question of being frightened. It's a question of approaching things sensitively.
Okay, let's move on to another question. This one's from Hinma. I hope I've pronounced that right. Billing. My town that I live in is always having trouble, one being my company car being smashed in and actually written off. The police couldn't do anything as the cameras around the town don't even work. So I guess this is surrounding CCTV.
Well, I don't know what your town is, Himla. The police work closely with councils on this, monitoring the cameras. And please be in touch with my office, and maybe I can address the issue in your particular
Just
community.
reading that is clearly meant to say him and her.
Oh, it's him and her.
I think that's meant to be him and her. I've completely messed up.
That was Neil's problem. He messed up.
That is entirely
him and her.
my mistake. And you have your contact details there as well. Yes, wave them at the
Is that
camera.
coming across?
Why not? Why not?
A bit closer.
A bit closer.
Yeah. There you go.
Right, there we go.
Identify yourself as him and her, and I'll get back to you.
There we go. This is how this works. Right, let's next go to Ashley Osborne. How do police help families with a family member missing? That's Ashley, and that is a male Ashley, I believe.
Ashley, we throw everything, including the kitchen sink, to finding missing people. I've been out on such an operation. I couldn't believe the resources dedicated to that. You know, the costs are enormous to our county, but the costs of somebody not being found are greater. So it's absolutely essential that we do everything possible to find a missing person. Happily, almost all people are found again.
Okay, well, just looking at one of the bits and bobs you've got in front of you there, you've got details on the Impact campaign.
I do.
That, if you're not aware, that is going around to colleges, high schools, and we have the logo, there we go. Speaking to young drivers, trying to stop young drivers maybe getting into situations they shouldn't be in. Why did you want to do that, actually get in front of people and actually use a young driver who'd been in a nasty crash and frankly only just got out of it with their life, to actually go and talk to them that way?
Neil, who likes a politician that makes a promise and doesn't keep it?
Not many people.
I don't either. And if I don't keep my promises, don't vote for me in 2020. Okay? I was concerned during my campaign at the number of reports of youth casualties and fatalities. It's not all young people, but the youth are impressionable. They're our future in this county. So I vowed, if elected, to do something about that. And I was asked by one of your colleagues in the Fifth Estate what I was going to do. Was I going to go into the schools and talk to young people about driver education? I said, no. An old man in a suit being convincing to 18-year-olds? No. I'm going to get an 18-year-old who doesn't own a suit, but has a wrecked car, and the scars on his face which he will bear for the rest of his life from his road accident. And he's got a really compelling message to convey to children, to young people. We've taken this now around to 17 different educational institutions in the county. We've reached over 2,000 young people, and through their social media and so on, we reckon we've actually probably reached 20,000 young people. This is absolutely essential. Every time I hear of a youth fatality, my heart just bleeds.
Okay, well, let's move on to another question. Let's hear from Lorraine Robinson. Lorraine saying, a lot of respect for the police force. I wouldn't want to do the job. They're brilliant. Thank you. So thank you for that, Lorraine.
Boy, am I going to pass that on, Lorraine.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, Kerry Reid says, could you please sort out the youth behaviour? It's not always the parents' fault, but kids need tougher punishments if you want them to stop antisocial behaviour.
Kerry, 99% of youth are absolutely great. I mean, I was one of them once. I wasn't so great, but I have a lot of respect for young people, and they have a voice to be heard. And that's why I established and chaired the first meeting of the Norfolk Youth Commission on this past Saturday, because we sometimes say the youth people are disengaged. I think it's our generations that have disengaged them, have disenfranchised them, because we don't speak and approach them in language that resonates with them. We don't show the same respect for their issues. Well, I want to hear from young people. What's causing them concern? Cyberbullying and cybercrime of different sorts and so on. Examination stress, all these things. Not easy to be a young person. I know it's not easy to be a parent either. But we need to interact better with young people. That's why this youth commission, which I've just established, about which you'll hear a great deal more, will carry the message out of respect for themselves, respect for others, for their communities, respect for the police respect for them.
Okay, let's just move on to a couple more questions. We're nearly out of time. Just to explain, Kirby, we just had to move on from your question just because of some of the content in that, because it was referring to particular people. So apologies for that.
Contact my office.
But but thanks ever so much for getting involved. Just so you know why we moved on past that. Right, let's get one from Ali that's just coming in. How seriously is cyberbullying taken?
I just sought to answer that in the previous question, Ali. It's taken incredibly serious, and we're going to try and engage with those who can do something about this. We do have a Safer Schools partnership where we address these issues with young people, and we're looking to expand that program, and again to bring in people who are credible, who know what they're talking about, not people like me on this particular issue, to try and improve the resilience of young people in the face of this horrible challenge.
Okay, we'll just take maybe two more. We're very nearly out of time. Let's go to Jackie. This fits in quite well with what we were talking about with young people. How are you working with local schools to help with drugs and knife crime, please?
I've sponsored a program called Street Doctors, which has addressed the issue of knife crime. These are actual medical doctors we have brought in who are experienced in the ravages of knife crime and have met 110 young people from Great Yarmouth and Norwich to tell them of the consequences. And we'll be bringing them back again in 2018 and in 2019. We're addressing the issue. That being said, knife crime is not as big a challenge as we may think in the wider community in Norfolk. It is a problem amongst certain drug dealers who are coming in from afar. I was on a drug bust. I wasn't doing the busting, but I accompanied the police the other day, and I saw in one flat we went into a machete knife sitting there, just to remind everybody that's not right. We don't need this in this county, and that's why we're putting so much effort into stamping out these drug dealers. We're building a ring of steel around this county to keep these horrible people out of here and keep your blades out of this county.
Okay, well, thanks everyone so much for all of your questions that have been coming in. That's all we do have time for, and I will ask you one last question from me. If you had to pick out one thing in the last year you've been most proud of, what would that be?
I'm most proud of the opportunity to engage with the community here in this sort of way, and to be able to offer them a voice with the police.
Oh, Lorne, thanks ever so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your questions. I'm sorry if we didn't get round to yours. You can see for your feed yourself. We've been absolutely flooded with them, which suggests to me we may well do this again. And I'm sure Lorne is trying to suggest in a very subtle way that if you've got any other concerns that you want to go to him, that's probably a good way of doing it. Lorne, your subtlety is incredible. Thank you very much indeed. Have you enjoyed that?
A public meeting on the 22nd of this month at UEA. Come one, come all. The Chief Constable will be with me. Put all the difficult questions you have to us. Our promise is to give you a fair answer.
And oh, look at this. Jimmy here says, don't go with a crying face.
Hey, Jimmy, come and see me in Wyndham. I like you.
Thanks so much. Thank you very much, Lorne Green. And judging by this, I think we really need to do this again sometime. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you, Neil. You did a good job.
Thank you.